Hey, what's up, MD? This is IFBB Pro Brad Rowe. We're at the Mecca Gold's Venice. I am 4 days out from the Ferrigno Legacy Classic, and we're here to get some shoulder workout and answer some questions for you guys, so follow along. So I moved to LA in spring of 2011, and so I've been here for a little over 6 years now. I mean, LA is great. You can't beat the weather. It's 70 and sunny every day. Like I used to tell my grandmother all the time when I first moved out here, it's like Groundhog Day. You know, there's money to be made, there's opportunities everywhere, which is great, and that's kind of what keeps me here. But as far as like actual lifestyle, things like that, I miss the small world. I miss my family. You know, I got a huge family that no one ever leaves. Everybody lives in a 2-3 town radius. So, you know, I do miss my family and friends back there. And a little slower lifestyle. The older I get, the more I'm thinking about family and kids, the more I'm thinking about moving back there. Man, you want to talk about being blessed. You know, as a bodybuilder coming out here, not knowing anybody, not really being a big name, to be able to be under the tutelage of Chris Cormier and Charles Glass for years, you know, them taking after me and still looking out for me to this day. You know, I truly learned how to train. When I first came out here, I was an athlete, I was a football player, and to me everything is all about how much weight can you move, how fast can you move it, all explosive type movements. And I could move some weight, I was strong as shit. You know, I was putting up 415 for like 15 reps on incline. And then I remember my first chest day with Cormier, he had me at 225 on incline and pretty much had me crying doing like 12 reps. You know, so it was just all about focusing on actually engaging my pecs and engaging muscle rather than just moving weight. So I owe Chris and Charles a lot. You know, one of my biggest weak points was back. I had no idea how to connect the back. I was just moving weight. I was using all biceps pretty much. And those guys really taught me how to connect and really focus on thinking about exactly what area of the muscle you want to train while you're executing each rep. Getting a nice cap on my shoulders has always been a challenge. You look at some of these guys, and obviously the Phil Heaths of the world with these crazy round bubbly delts. That's something that I still struggle with, and I'm trying different approaches to my training every year. You know, I moved away from a lot of heavy pressing and just focused on a lot of laterals, a lot of partials, a lot of drop sets, things like that. From the side, my delts have a lot of girth to them, but they don't have that round pop that a lot of guys do. So that's really something I've been focusing on and just changing angles and trying to take away my traps and other body parts that typically overcompensate and really focus on getting those delts to pop. For me, it was just, you know, I was all about heavy dumbbell presses. You know, I spent half my day doing, you know, dumbbell presses with 150-pound dumbbells for sets of 10 to 12. Then I'd go on to like a Smith machine press, and I'd do a hammer press, and I might do one lateral exercise. Whereas today, like I said, I rarely do any pressing. If I do, it's more of like a hybrid movement, maybe something that hits a little bit of the front delt and upper pec, because I have been combining my chest workouts with my shoulder workouts a lot lately. But my primary focus is just all on lateral movements. My front delts are pretty strong. They take over. My rear delts have always been great, something I don't really have to train that much, and they get a nice round cap to them. But my lateral head of my delt is still lacking. So, you know, every type of lateral and upright row that I can throw at them, I've been trying out. Yeah, I mean, as I just spoke about, my front delt really overpowered. My rear delt's overpowered. So my lateral delts have been lacking, and you know, I'm not sure if it's just because of the way I press and certain muscle groups take over, but I stop pressing movements a lot, and I really try to focus on just lateral, whether it be super heavy dumbbells, moving for partials, or just really light bands and just doing reps of 40 to 50, you know, at different angles. Just really trying to activate and engage my lateral head of my delts. I've had my fair share of shoulder injuries and still am dealing with them. Dating back to my junior year in high school, I had a rotator cuff injury, had to have surgery, had a slap repair. So, you know, even as far back as then, I've had shoulder issues. I currently have tears in both my labrums right now. Thankfully, my rotator cuff is actually strong enough, and it's keeping the ball and socket in place. So there's very limited instability. You know, one of the big issues with a labral tear is your ball wants to pop out of the socket. because that's kind of the cartilage that keeps it sucked in there. So if you have any instability in your rotator cuff and you have a labrum tear, then that ball is going to pop out of that socket and it's going to cause a lot of issues. But that being said, even though I don't have a lot of pain itself in the shoulder, because my rotator cuff and other muscles have to compensate to kind of keep everything sucked in, I actually have issues with like pec tendons and like rear delt, scapula, subscap, teres minor, teres major issues, because everything's trying to work harder to keep that shoulder in place. So I've had a couple slight pec tears because of that, and I constantly need body work in my teres minor, teres major, and subscapularis area, because everything just locks up because I'm trying to overcompensate with that. I think one of the biggest things that keeps people back from doing well with shoulder training is their overcompensation with other muscles. You see a lot of people that are just really stiff through the neck. They bend their elbows way too much, so they're really not putting a true load on their delts themselves. So one of the big things is just trying to relax your neck, relax your traps, lighten the weight up a little bit, and really focus on contracting, whichever head that you want to hit. Something like the rear delt typically isn't that strong of a muscle, so it doesn't take a lot of weight to really hit it. And when you start going a little too heavy, then you are going to get your traps and your rhomboids and things like that involved more than you are your rear delts. So, lighten up the weight, try to relax your neck and your core, and really try to focus on contracting those individual muscles. I do a mix. I do a lot of dumbbell work for front raises, lateral raises, rear delt type stuff. As far as shoulder presses, as of late, I've been sticking to machines, typically a hammer strength press machine. But I do have to add pads and things like that to get position where my shoulder doesn't bother me. I think a lot of the problem with machines are you're stuck on a singular plane of motion. And if that plane of motion doesn't fit your body style and your insertions and things like that, then you're going to put yourself at hindrance and you're not going to get a proper workout. So, for me, there's different thicknesses of pads that I can put behind my back to kind of prop myself up to really focus on hitting the range of motion that I really want to hit. But one of the nice things of the machine work is you do take away some of the stability issues and things like that. So someone like me who has a labrum issue, doing heavy dumbbells, say you slip on one little rep and you can rotate back a little too much, and that's going to pop that shoulder out. So, I think it's a fine line. I think everything has a purpose, but you got to find machines that actually work for you, because some things don't work, for your body style. So you got to be smart about your selection. I think frequency of hitting any body part that's behind is you toe a line of stimulating it enough to get growth and potentially overtraining. I think a good rule of thumb is you can probably hit a body part consistently every 5 days, full intensity. If you dropped it to every 3 or 4 days, every couple weeks, I think you need to skip a rotation there to kind of give it a little extra healing and recovery time. So as with anything, there's that fine line of getting in enough frequency and volume and overtraining. As a bodybuilder, I don't think any of us are happy with any body part that we have. Even something like my legs, which everybody rants and raves about, I still see so many flaws in my legs. So, I'm not happy with my shoulder development. And, for me, I would say the biggest things I would like to bring up is a much bigger shoulder cap, bring my chest up, bring my arms up. The back will come, but, sitting there in your front relaxed pose, things like, what I notice the most is like a front lat spread. You don't think of delts coming and play in a front lat spread, but with my delts being so flat and my pecs being so flat, I hit a front lat spread and there's just really no pop to anything. So, those are things that I need to work on to help out other poses, such as, your front lat spread or even just front relaxed pose. They just give you a more round, robust look that demands the judge's attention. I actually enjoy contest prep. That's what I find the challenge about bodybuilding. I love weights, and no matter what, I'd always lift weights. And I think till the day I die, I'm going to be in here clanging weights. So I'm not a fan of off season. I don't like pushing food. I don't like eating. I don't like feeling bloated. That's a little bit of a challenge for me, but the dieting and the starving and the cardio, that's stuff I enjoy. And, when it comes down to those last few weeks, like, days like today and yesterday where I've been nonstop for, 16, 17 hours a day between working at the house and trying to train and on very minimal calories and doing 2 hours of cardio right now. As much as it sucks, that's, as I tell my clients, you got to kind of embrace the suck. If you enjoy this process and you learn to enjoy, the misery that comes along with contest prep, it makes the whole journey that much easier. So for me, I'm twisted and I actually like the depths of prep. So this show was completely on a whim. Originally in the beginning of the year, I had planned on doing the Arnold Asia, which was going to be in August. And then I was going to make a run for, maybe one of the post-Olympia shows, do the Ferrigno and do San Marino. I wanted to hit a few shows. And then they canceled the Arnold Asia. And at that time, my wife had kind of put serious thought into doing nationals, and she was getting ready for nationals. So I said, you know what, I want to take the year off. Let's focus on her. She hadn't competed in a little while, and she's deserving of a pro card without a doubt. Structure and muscularity, she's great. Conditioning's her one issue. So I wanted to try to work around the house and take care of the puppies, because we got 2 puppies this year, and really try to take as much pressure off her as possible so that she could rest more and try to focus on recovery, which would hopefully aid her in being able to push harder and get conditioning. And then her body just, kind of hit a stalling point, and she was feeling a little unhappy with things. And so the idea of competing kind of popped in my head. And a little less than a month ago, we just closed on our first house, and we were going to do some remodeling stuff. And I figured, this is a great opportunity for marketing purposes. At this day and age, we make our money off social media, off marketing ourselves as athletes, as people. And so, I thought it'd be a great idea to get some content of me remodeling the house and prepping these last 4 weeks for the show. I was going to send my wife off to Miami with her mother so she could focus on her prep, and I was just going to do the Ferrigno. So it's really only been 4 weeks, and this is definitely the shortest prep I've ever gone into. I was in good shape, so conditioning wasn't an issue, but the little things like stretching and posing every single day. Usually I start my posing at like 10, 12 weeks out, and I literally started at just under 4 weeks out. So that's one area that I might be behind in posing conditions. So I'm really trying to hammer that away for these next few days. Obviously it certainly hinders gaining muscle by not being able to, just eat with unrestricted caloric intake and get as big as I need to get. But I truly don't think adding a significant amount of mass is going to make me that much greater of a contender. I think for me personally, this has always been about doing things my way and the way I want to do it. And what I envision for my physique is more of a streamlined look that has a little bit of an athletic edge to it. I can still hit the vacuum, and that's something that I want to maintain. So if I don't have the crazy round shoulders and the big arms and the big chest, that's okay, because I would pass that up for a more athletic look and being able to bring some nice conditioning to stage. So, it might hurt me, but this is how I make my money, and this is how I brand myself. And I don't even think, if I was a consistent top 3 placer at shows, that it would make up for the money that I would lose by not being able to market myself the way I do. I try to talk myself that contest placings don't mean anything. And I'm a competitive person. I'm an athlete by nature, but I also try to be realistic about things. And I understand that there's guys out there that are just blessed structurally and genetically that, I'm fighting an uphill battle against. And if I lose against those guys because they brought their A game, then that's out of my doing. There are some guys out there that I try to beat. When I look at a contest, I see certain names, and for certain reasons, I want to beat them. There's guys that have beaten me throughout my amateur career a couple times. We've flipped back and forth. And, I figure if they beat me, on the national level stage as an amateur, and I can turn around and beat them on the pro stage, that my career's progressed a little better than theirs, and my physique has progressed a little better than theirs. So I definitely find many challenges within every single show, and there's certain people I want to beat, and there's certain standards that I hold myself to. But as far as like pure first, second, third, like that doesn't matter to me. The entire landscape of bodybuilding has changed so much over, I'd say, the past 4 years. Social media has taken off between YouTube and Instagram. And, as you know, you have guys out there that are bodybuilders that have never even stepped on stage or might have done one rinky-dink show years ago, and they're making way more money than 90% of the competitive bodybuilders out there. So placings don't mean anything anymore. You know, obviously if you're Phil Heath or, you know, you're a top 3 guy, you can make a career off just placings and just your name. Outside of that, you got to market yourself. You got to find your niche. You got to put content out consistently. And that's something that I didn't really pick up on when social media first came out. So now I'm trying to play catch up, and I'm trying to get YouTube videos out, but even that's expensive. You know, living here in LA, it's hard to find some kid that's like, oh, I'll video you for free, you know, if you train me, you know. So that's kind of a tough market out here to do. So, you know, I got to pay for every one of my YouTube videos, and that costs me money, but I see it as an investment into my career, an investment into my business. So, you know, social media is definitely the driving factor for everybody in the fitness industry and almost every industry out there nowadays. You know, small businesses, everything. You know, social media is what drives your revenues. So, you know, it's something I need to put a lot more effort into, and me and my wife plan to going into 2018. I do enjoy competing. I love the process. I get nervous as hell, so actually getting on stage, you know, I'm backstage, I'm shitting myself, and before I got to go out there and pose, it's a nerve-wracking thing, but I think that means that you care. If I didn't care and I just went out there and it didn't mean anything to me, then I wouldn't get nervous. You know, I still have standards that I hold myself to. I want to improve each show. It might not be poundage and weight-wise, but it could be a thing about shape or a thing about conditioning or you know, bringing some more roundness to this body part, or, you know, even looking back to the Ferrigno last year, I came in at like 242 pounds, which was my biggest look, and I actually didn't like that look. I thought I was a little too full, and I thought that it took away some of my shape. And then I look back to something like Finland, the show prior to that, and I was just a little on the flat side, but I like that flatter look more than I do like the full look. So for this show, we're trying to come in a little bit fuller than Finland, but not near where I was for the Ferrigno last year. So it's just little things like that. You know, you find what works, or you find things to improve upon. And if I can knock that out of the park and make those improvements that I set for myself personally, then that's a win. All right, guys, that concludes the shoulder workout and video Q&A 4 days out from the Ferrigno Legacy. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Project AD, and Joe Bindley, Liquid Sun Rays, Muscular Development, for always having me on and putting me out there. My wife for dealing with my grumpy ass all the time. And, you know, you guys are going to see a lot of me next year. I do plan on competing at a ton of shows, so you're going to get sick of hearing about me and sick of seeing my face. And hope you guys enjoy the journey.